Hello, I am filming the intro to this video in one of our hotel rooms on our Florida trip, which you're going to hear more about throughout this vlog. The reason I'm filming this is because in this video I'm doing bookoplathon, and I have realised while editing I do a miscalculation of a roll. So basically I do a double roll for my first roll where I get an outcome. This is a difficult intro to film because I don't want to spoil what's about to happen, but the first prompt I get a double then, but I don't do that prompt twice. But then the second prompt I don't get a double, but I will do that prompt twice in this video. So it's just to preface this by saying I do recognise in the editing of this that I went wrong and that I'm double reading for the wrong prompt based on having rolled a double, but I obviously can't go back and unread what I read, and so there isn't really anything I can do about it. I'm just letting you know that that's happened. Hope that's okay. Also, I got engaged on this trip. That might be the first time that you hear me talk about that. I don't really know if I plan to talk about it much on this channel. I'm going to be doing more of my Florida content over on my planning channel, so if you want to hear me talk a little bit more about it, go have a look on my planning channel. But yeah. Anyway, into this video. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. This is going to be a pretty short introduction because I'm filming this at about 10:45 at night on a Sunday, but I decided that I wanted to give it a go. So for some context, it is Sunday the 4th of September and September is bookoplathon. That's a rubbish. Is bookoplathon. If you don't know what this is the TBR game that Becca in the Books does, and it is a take on Monopoly, and Becca does this every month or every other month, but in September she makes a version of the board that everyone can join in, and I was really keen to be part of this, but September is not an ideal month for me because I'm going to Florida for 2 weeks, and it is very much not the kind of holiday where we're going to be sitting on the beach reading. So I don't really think I'm going to get much read. I also haven't read anything so far in September, despite reading 10 books in August. So I was then getting a bit worried that I wouldn't be able to participate in bookoplathon, but I've decided that I'm just going to start the vlog and it won't matter if I don't do it because you will never see this. But I thought I would give it a go. My plan is to roll as I go, and my plan is to vlog the entire thing in one video just so that you can kind of get an idea of the books I read and my thoughts. I don't see another way to do this because of going to Florida, so that is the plan. So that's the board. I'm actually really happy with how I did the board. I printed it on A3 and then I stuck it on the back of a Disney box. So I was actually really happy with it. So again, I didn't want to not participate in bookoplathon because I'd done a really cute job with the board. So in terms of the rolls, I hope for future rolls that I will film this properly, but as I said, it's really late at night and I need to go to bed, and so I film on my phone and my iPad is charging somewhere. So I did a dice simulator on my phone, so I know what number like I need to do on here. Does that make any sense? No. That I need to go round the board. So it's 6 that I need to go around the board. I also, while we're here, have no, like, I mean, we are a board game household, right? My boyfriend is so into board games, and so I had plans to do this with like my little Disney villainous figures, but I'm not getting the whole game out. So for now it's gonna have to be the Millennium Falcon bottle opener because that's what's currently here on my kitchen work surface. So as I said, I rolled a 6, which was a double. To be honest, it was 2 3s. I need to refresh myself as to what that means in terms of rolling as I go. I have a feeling that it's possibly you have to do 2 books for the same prompt, but I would need to refresh. I'm not going to hold myself that strictly to this though, I'm sorry. I would love to have done this properly, but September is not the best month for me, and I wasn't sure whether it would be appropriate to like hold it over till October because September is the month that people do bookoplathon. So I don't know that I'm going to hold myself to the doubles because I just don't think I'm going to get that much read. I'm not even convinced I'm going to get this first book read this month, but anyway, we shall see. So let me switch this around so you can see where we get to with 6. very poor lighting, but here is our Millennium Falcon. So we're on go. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. I can work with that. So we got people, which I'm gonna be honest, I am so happy about. As far as the prompts go for this first section, this is an ideal prompt for me. If you don't know, I predominantly read romance, and so most of my books have people on the cover because a lot of romances have people on the cover. So this is a super easy prompt for me. I'm also really excited because a book that I just got, I literally like saw someone mention it on Instagram, I think, and immediately just ordered it on Amazon because it was on sale, and it's just arrived today. And it's the perfect book for this prompt. So the book is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams, and this is about Bree, who was going to be a ballerina but had an injury that meant she couldn't, and so she runs a dance studio, and she is in love with her long-term best friend and NFL legend Nathan, and she runs a dance studio and is really struggling to keep things afloat, and so Nathan buys the whole studio. And she's really upset about this, so she gets drunk and reveals her feelings, and it gets caught on camera. And Nathan's publicist decides that the best way for kind of Nathan's image to deal with this is for him and Bree to pretend to publicly be in love for 3 weeks. I'm so excited. I love a fake dating trope. I love a friends to lovers trope. I think this is going to just be a really, really cute book. Also, the edition of this is a really like floppy edition, which I just love to read. So I'm hoping that I will get some time to read this. I have no idea if that's going to happen this week. I have so many things that I need to do, but I'm really missing reading. I'm so proud of myself for missing reading. So I would really like to try and get to this. So I will check in with you hopefully soon when I've read a little bit of this book. So we are leaving to go to Gatwick Airport soon. But I thought while just waiting to do the last few things, I would wrap up the 2 books that I've read so far in September. So first up we have The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. Basically the sort of first like 80 pages or so are just kind of set up for Bree and Nathan's relationship, particularly establishing the way that Bree feels about Nathan, though we do get both perspectives in this book, which is nice because you kind of realise that their feelings for each other are matched, and I think that's in many ways kind of helpful, because sometimes I feel like with friends to lovers you only get one side and you don't necessarily know if it's reciprocated, whereas in this case we know from very early on it is very much reciprocated. And basically what happens, and this is all on the blurb, this is not a spoiler, is that Nathan makes a lot of money as an American football player, and he goes behind Bree's back to pay for the rent that keeps going up at her dance studio so she can keep it. She finds that out, she gets really drunk and spills her guts to a reporter on a night out that, you know, she was annoyed about this, but also how much she likes Nathan. And Nathan, when this information goes public, Nathan's management team and publicist decide that it would be best if they would pretend to be together, because people are so in favour of Bree and her kind of heartfelt declaration of love for Nathan. So in terms of how I feel about this story, I absolutely love the premise of it. Friends to lovers is not a trope I've read that much of, but I really like. It's super cute. And it was really interesting at the end of this book when I was reading the author notes, and she was saying that what she set out to do was to write a book that sort of didn't really have that much drama. It was very much supposed to be a comfort read, and I would say this definitely is that. It doesn't have a lot of the typical sort of third act drama that you expect from romance books. We don't really have that. There is a little bit of drama, but it's like really not a lot compared to other romance books, which to be honest I really did like. So yeah, that was I really liked that aspect of it. I mostly liked Bree and Nathan. I think it was just a bit repetitive from Bree's side of sort of constantly telling herself that Nathan didn't feel that way about her, and then things change very quickly when she kind of recognises that Nathan does have those feelings, and then we kind of go into the third act. There is also some anxiety rep in this. Nathan is very much discovering that he has anxiety disorder. Thought that was handled pretty well, if a little bit rushed in the last section. So yeah, overall this book's a good time. It's not the best book I've ever read, but I do think it's cute. I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as sort of like The Soulmate Equation or It Happened One Summer. So there's other romances I enjoyed more than this, and I think that was maybe to do with more developed story. This one is a little bit repetitive, but Brie and Nathan are really cute. There was some elements of it that I wanted to see a bit more. Like, they call Brie cheese, which I understand is because her name is Brie but spelled differently, but there's never like a background to that, and so then it just feels really weird that they constantly call her Brie cheese. But there's this really cute repeated theme of like, you with me, or you still here, or something like that, and that's really cute. So overall this is cute. It could have maybe been a little bit more developed or fleshed out, would have been good for it, but overall it's a good time. I'd recommend it. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it though, because even though I really thought, like, when I read about this on Instagram, I was like, this is the book for me. Having read it, I'm not sure it's something I would pick up and reread. So I'm not convinced that I am going to keep it. I'll probably unhaul it. I buy books often because I buy cheap romances, so I can't keep everything. So realistically, I'm probably not going to keep this, even though I didn't mind it, but it's not one that I think I would necessarily choose to reread. But overall, I think it's a good time. So this was the first one that I read. Oh, I need to not lose my bookmark in here. This is my Polathon bookmark. So this was the book that I read for the People prompt on Bookoplathon. So for roll number 2, I rolled a 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Summer. I can definitely work with that. And then I rolled a double for the summer prompt. So because I'm rolling as I go, Becca, I think, maybe does cover this in her video, but I didn't have time to go back and watch it. So I just double read for the summer prompt before moving on to the next prompt. So the first book that I read is Summer at the Castle Cafe by Donna Ashcroft. I picked this up in the works. It's in every works that I've been in around my area. So if when I tell you the story it sounds like your kind of thing, I would recommend going to the works and picking it up, because it's in like 3 for £6 deals, so you can get this book for £2. In this we follow Alice and Jay, and Alice moves to Castle Cove after her mum passes away, because she feels really guilty about her mum's death, and she wants to run in the triathlon that happens there because her mum was really into that triathlon. And she runs into Jay, who is a carpenter and volunteers for the lifeboats, and they kind of keep clashing, and you know, they sort of keep running into each other, keep clashing, and then it turns into something more than that. And the story is basically that. It's about Alice kind of trying to figure out herself and her home, and Jay is dealing with some kind of past grief that he has to deal with as well, while you're also, this is part of a series, and I really like UK romances. It's not really a American romance thing, it's a British romance thing, where they'll kind of move to like a town in Cornwall, and there'll be a series of books that happen there. So yeah, this is number 1 in that series, so there are future books, and so you get a kind of cast of quirky characters and that kind of thing. I gave this book 2 stars, which I really don't give a lot of book 2 stars. Like, my general benchmark is 3. If I think something is fine, it gets a 3. I really couldn't give this a 3. I feel awful saying this, but I have read some other reviews that said the same, though in the main the reviews for this are really good. It's not been reviewed a ton of times, but the reviews are really good. But I think this was the author's first book, and so it might be that things have improved since then. But the writing style in this is very underdeveloped, and I really don't like to talk about writing styles, because I haven't written a novel. Like, I would like to, but I haven't, and so I don't like to comment too much on this. But in this book, it was unavoidable to recognize that the writing style was underdeveloped. I think one review called it immature, which feels harsh, but I understand what they were getting at. The book feels under-edited, it feels underdeveloped, the story doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere, it's like very repetitive, and then stuff happens really quickly or really slowly. We do get some OCD rep in here. I don't have OCD, like I have some elements of kind of organization, things like that, but I don't like to call it OCD because I understand that that's different. And I don't know whether this goes to that length of OCD, so someone who has OCD would probably need to comment on that, but from my point of view it was okay. So whilst editing this video, I've realised that I got cut off midway through my review of Summer at the Castle Cove. Well, to be honest, it was basically at the end, but I just didn't wrap it up properly. So I'm just going to jump in here to do that now. Basically, I think I've said everything I need to say about this book. It isn't one I would particularly recommend. I wanted more from it. I did feel that the writing style was underdeveloped. I didn't really feel that the plot had quite enough to it, or that the pacing was a bit weird. So I don't think I would pick up anything else by this author, which is really unfortunate, but the reviews on Goodreads are really good. So if you think it sounds like your kind of thing, it might be worth picking it up. But for me, this one was a bit of a miss. It's going to go onto the on-haul pile, and I moved on pretty quickly to my next book. So today I finished Summer at Castle Cafe or Castle Cove or whatever it's called. I still need to film a wrap up for that, but it is gone midnight. But I'm in the mood to read, despite the fact it's gone midnight. So I just remembered that I rolled a double for this prompt, and I've had a look at the bookoplathon instructions, and I don't know what this means for me, and Becca might cover it in her video, but I don't have time to watch it, so I need to decide what it is I'm gonna do about this. So what I've decided is I think I need to read another book for this prompt before I roll again. So the prompt I had was Summer last, so obviously I read Summer at the Castle Cafe. That was pretty good. I've had a look at my bookshelves. I'm still in the mood for romance because it's just what I love, people. And I debated reading The Spanish Love Deception because I feel like it could work, but instead I'm going to go with The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren because I really like Christina Lauren's writing, and this book is very summer vibes. I mean, so is The Spanish Love Deception, I think, but this one, it's yellow, it's got palm trees, and yeah, I think this is definitely summery vibes, so this is what I've decided to go for. I'm filming this before I finish my third book, but we leave for Florida today, and my plan is to read Jade War. I'm about 25% into Jade War, but I last read it several months ago, but I think I remember enough about what happened to keep going with it, but I need Jade War to be what comes up. Because I have my whole time been this is what I will read on the flight, so I need it to be Jade War. So I rolled a 7 off camera with the virtual dice, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Right, okay, that's making this a little bit risky. We've landed on chance, so I'm just using a rubber band here because we need to leave pretty soon. Okay, so I have in here my chance cards, which are already shuffled, and Jade War is on one of them. I hadn't actually put Jade War on these when I first made the board, and then I kept changing my mind. So you'll see on my chance cards, I've on loads of them I've scribbled stuff out and written new books because I was being really indecisive about what books I wanted on this. I think it's that difference between books I need to read and books I want to read. So, but Jade War is on there. So, okay. I don't want to pick it up. Why couldn't I have landed on Big Book? Where is Big Book? Oh, here. I was never going to land on that. Okay. So I probably was in the wrong part of the board in order to pick Jade War. But if I'd landed on TBR game, I could have just I don't know, found someone's TBR where Jade War was on it or something. But anyway, we are where we are. We have to take the chance, so I just have to hope that Jade War is on here. I don't really want to read any of the books that are on here now because we literally fly tomorrow, and the only option for me to read is Jade War. So if I don't get Jade War, I'm probably still going to read Jade War, realistically. But anyway, let us see. Oh, thank goodness. It's here. So you can see I changed my mind so many times because what I was originally doing is putting the next book in some series I need to read. So I haven't read Fence Volume 4, but that's an easy graphic novel I can pick that up anytime. And then I changed it, so then I put the Atlas 6 because I was then trying to challenge myself a bit more, because obviously Fence is a graphic novel, so it's an easy read. So then I was trying to challenge myself a bit more by putting the Atlas 6, but then I was I'm not going to read the Atlas 6 this month. When I then, after I'd written this and looked at the books I put on here, I was
if I get any books read this month, it would be a bit of a miracle. Now, realistically, I have already read 3, and we're kind of at the end of like the first proper weekend in September, or the second, I guess. But so I'm actually in a pretty good place. But I was like, you're never going to get through the Atlas 6. You're not going to want to take it to Florida. It's too big a book. And I wanted to read Jade War, so it's okay. McCurdy Lee has rewarded me. Thank goodness.
Hello, we are back from Florida. So I'm going to attempt to do this part of the wrap up while hanging up washing, because I also feel like the angle of this is so wonky. Okay, that's a little bit better. So yeah, if you are new to watching any of my videos, I often multitask while filming, editing, etc. And so today we have much washing from having been away in Florida for several weeks, and therefore we need to, you know, just we need to hang up the washing while we film this part of the video. So this is my review for the Unhoneymooners, which was the book I ended up putting in as the second summer prompt because I got confused, and yeah, as explained at the beginning of this video. So the Unhoneymooners I read while we were, like, it was such an easy read. I flew through it. It was one that I read the day, did I read the whole thing in one day? I doubt it. No, it was probably over 2 days. So I would have read it the day before we left for our trip. I read it like, I finished it at like 2 a.m. in the hotel room the day before we flew to Florida. So in the Unhoneymooners, we are with Olive and Ethan, and Olive's twin sister is really into discounts and getting things for free. She manages to get her entire wedding for free, and which I'm not sure that's a thing, but we'll come back to that. And at the wedding, they have a buffet and everyone gets sick apart from Olive and Ethan, who don't eat the buffet food. And Ethan and Olive are rivals, for no particular reason other than that Olive thinks that Ethan hates her. And she doesn't know why, and she thinks it's really unjust, but they've never really spoken about it. And they both don't eat the food, so they don't get sick. And her sister insists that she goes on the honeymoon, that Olive goes on the honeymoon instead of Amy, because she doesn't want someone to miss it. Which is obviously very generous of her, but there was apparently a no refund clause in this free honeymoon. So Olive is a bit on the fence about going, but Amy's husband tells Ethan he should go, and when Ethan says he's gonna go, Olive then gets really defensive and decides she is gonna go on the honeymoon. And so they end up going together with Olive pretending to be Amy, which therefore leads to, you know, hijinks and stuff when they're at the resort, because they decide they have to pretend to be married. They have to sort of be faking it. And in a very bizarre and convenient turn of events, they end up running into multiple people that they know. So Olive runs into a guy who's just offered her a job, which is a job she really needed. She's really struggling financially. And so they pretend to be married for her new boss because he assumes she's married on hearing the married name said by a spa worker. And so she decides to just go with it because she feels too awkward, which I don't know, I kind of get. I feel like I would do that. And then Ethan's ex-girlfriend or fiance I think, turns up as well, and so they pretend to be married to make her jealous, and in typical fake dating trope fashion, feelings ensue. That's effectively the plot. So I really like Christina and Lauren. So they write books together. And I read The Soulmate Equation earlier on this year and absolutely loved it. The writing style was smart and witty. The story felt really unique and I absolutely loved it. So I was really excited to read this book because I thought, yeah, these are writers that I really can get on board with. This story just wasn't for me. So much of it was just convenient. The fact that there was like Olive's new boss was there and Ethan's ex-fiance was there, it was like, that's not a thing that's going to happen in a resort that's like not near where you live. And it just felt too implausible. And I didn't really think that plausibility was something that bothered me that much, but it turns out it is. So that was just too much of a struggle for me. And I just didn't find either Olive or Ethan that endearing. They just, you know, they were fine, but they weren't sort of characters that I absolutely fell in love with or was like particularly rooting to be together. So that was a bit of a shame as well. Christina Lauren, it's not quite fade to black, but it's kind of on the way to fade to black, and so you don't even kind of have the like steamy scenes to sort of weigh up to, I guess, to sort of like flip side the fact that if you're not sort of loving other parts of it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave it 3 stars. I think it was just one that I kind of felt, yeah, it was fine. It's definitely not one I would reread. And it's, my 3-star territory is quite difficult because 3-star is like my general benchmark for if I think something is fine, then I give it 3 stars. But I kind of think if I compare this to like Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which I also gave it 3, I prefer Delilah Green Doesn't Care. But that's not really what we're here for. We're not ranking like every single book I've read this year or anything. So yeah, I think I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I wouldn't reread it. It's not one I don't even think I would particularly recommend, in that I just think there are better fake dating trope books done out there than this one. So I think it was a little bit disappointing for me from that point of view. But, you know, overall, it was fine. So that's the Soulmate Equation. That's the wrap up part for this book.
Hello. So we are yet again at the washing, which I'm now taking down to put new washing up. So it's the 1st of October, which means we have reached the end of bookoplathon, and I need to film a wrap up for this video, which in some ways I feel like is a bit of a fail, in that ultimately I read 3 3/4 books in the last month, which is probably not that interesting from a bookoplathon point of view, in that, you know, loads of other people are reading like 10 to 15 books, and here's me with my with my 3.35 or whatever. But we are where we are, you know. Bookoplathon falls in September. I can't control that, and I was in Florida for 2 of those weeks, had jet lag for half of a week after that, and back to work has been really busy, which I should have predicted and probably did predict, but anyway, so we are where we are, and that's it. So I've obviously reviewed the books I've read so far. You've seen them on this vlog, so I won't go over those again. In terms of Jade War, I am 75% of my way through it. I did actually read a lot of it on our final days of the holiday. So on Saturday we had like a pretty chill day, and then on Sunday, which was the day that we flew back, we didn't fly until like 9 I think, by the time it was delayed. And so I actually read like a lot of the day. So I did get from a third of the way through, I guess, to like 75% of the way through. So I actually did a really, really good job with it. I'm really enjoying it. I obviously can't really talk about it because it's the second in a series, but if you are considering picking up the Green Bones saga and you haven't already, I cannot recommend it enough. It's so good. I think it's very accessible. As someone who doesn't read a lot of fantasy, I think it's a very accessible fantasy book. There's a lot to it and a lot to get your head around, and I don't think I necessarily get every single aspect of it, but I think it's really good. And the second one is quite different to the first one in that
The first one covers a much shorter span of time. The second one, we are covering a lot of ground. And at first I kind of thought, oh, we're moving like very quickly, and I don't know how I feel about that. Now that I'm sort of further into it, you know, you kind of are flying through it and you do really want to know what happens. And obviously being a being a Greenbone Saga book, there will probably be a lot that happens in the last the last section of the book. Like, this book really shocks and surprises me with some of the twists. Again, I don't want to go into it too much, but Fonda Lee is just, she is not afraid to, you know, kill off characters that are very main characters, or kill off people that when you're not expecting it. And it just, I've not really read a book like that, I think, because a lot of my experience with fantasy is YA, potentially, where you sort of maybe only lose people at the end of a book, whereas the Greenbone Saga is not like that. So yeah, really enjoying it, but obviously, unfortunately, I haven't finished it. I have also been listening to the audiobook for I'm Glad My Mum Died, the memoir by Jeanette McCurdy, which everyone on BookTube is talking about, and so I thought I'm gonna have to pick it up, and it is as good as everyone says it is. It's such an honest look at her life and her relationship with her mum and her career and the issues of being a child actor, and it's just harrowing, but in the best way, I guess. It's a very difficult listen, actually, as someone who's sort of been in the profession to an extent. My degree's in musical theatre, if you don't know. It's a very eye-opening audiobook, and also there are a lot of trigger warnings, so do be aware of that. And the main trigger warning for me is the fact that her mum dies of cancer, which a lot of my family members have had cancer. My mum has had cancer, and so it is very difficult from that perspective, but it's such a good book. I can't recommend it enough, really, but I haven't finished that. I also didn't roll for that. I did actually do another roll, which I'll delete the footage of that from this video now, but I did actually do another roll like before I left for holiday, in case I managed to read something else while we were away, but I did not touch that romance. And so the prompt I had was for a book with a romance, and I do not feel that it is appropriate to put I'm Glad My Mum Died as that, so I can't really count that towards bookoplathon anyway, because I didn't roll a prompt for it and I haven't finished it anyway. So even though it's only like a 6-hour audiobook, but I'm listening to it over several days. So that's it, that's my wrap up. Not a lot was read this month, but I hope you enjoyed this video anyway. I really enjoyed my experience with bookoplathon. It's actually helped to open my eyes to how fun it can be to sort of have prompts to read to. I did actually really enjoy it. So maybe it's something that I can consider doing in the future in whatever way that is, through other readathons or something like that. So I will have a think about that, and it made me feel a little bit less intimidated about that, even if I didn't read that much. But thank you so much for watching. As I say, I really hope you enjoyed this video. As a relatively new BookTube channel, any likes, comments, subscribes go a huge way to helping out my channel, so thank you so much if you do react in any way to this video. I will link down below to my Instagram, which is shared between my planning, which is my other YouTube, and here, and I will also link to my planning YouTube channel, and I will link to my Goodreads, which is always the most up-to-date place to read the reviews of the books that I'm reading. This is also going to count as my wrap-up video, just to let you know, because I see no need to film a wrap-up for a handful of books, so this will count as both of those things. So other videos that are coming on my channel will be some other stuff. I'm really excited for the books that are coming up on my channel or have recently been posted, depending on when I post this, so I hope that you're enjoying the content that I'm making at the moment. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!